Hello. Is it recording? Hello. This is Meg from Splat Training, and with me I have got Janet, who is a paramedic. Would you like to introduce yourself, Janet?
So I'm Janet, and I work for Yorkshire Ambulance Service as a paramedic and have done for the last 6 years.
Fantastic. And where are you based?
I'm based at Todmorden Ambulance Station.
Okay, so very local to us, our nearest ambulance to Splat Training. So I've got Janet here with me today to have a little chat about CPR on women, which is the current campaign that we're talking about in our blogs and on social media. So, Janet, I don't know if you are aware of the research that's out there about how less women's lives are being saved with CPR and defibrillation in public. And one of the reasons that a lot of the research is getting to about this is because people are scared of their boobs. People are scared to take all of their clothes off when they need defibrillation, or they're scared to just do compressions in the area where boobs are. Even though I don't know about you, but mine are not there when I'm lying down. Which is something we talk about in our training. You know, we're really passionate. We're a female-led company. We want to spread this message, and we want to get the statistics to be equal on men and women eventually. So we just want to talk about this. And so basically, firstly, is this something that you're aware of?
It is something that I'm aware of, that the general public see women and breasts as a massive hurdle to get over.
Literally.
And it shouldn't be like that. We need to be giving good, effective CPR to men and women alike. And by having breasts, it doesn't make any difference. Yes, we look different on the outside, but internally, we're still the same. We've still got a heart in the same place. We've still got lungs in the same place. So we need to make sure that we're giving good, effective CPR, regardless of breasts or not.
Yeah. And you've done CPR on many men and women, that's correct?
Yeah.
And the place that you put your hands when you do CPR, you're not touching any boobs really, are you?
Not particularly, no. It just depends, obviously, on the anatomy of that person and how pert their breasts may be.
Yeah, if they're real or not.
Yeah, that does make a difference as well. Like you've just mentioned previously, our breasts don't seem to be in the same place when we lay down flat as to when we are stood up. And the main thing about doing CPR on women is that you still put your hands in the same place as you would do on a gentleman. It's centre of the chest, just slightly over to the left breast, and do your compressions as normal.
And what about when it comes to defibrillation?
So defibrillation, you need to make sure you've got that bra off. You need to make sure that they're naked from the chest upwards if you are doing CPR and you need to defibrillate. You need to make sure you get your pad in the right place. Lift the boob up, put it underneath, put it where it needs to be so you've got that effective shock when it comes, because the effective shock and the effective CPR will save lives.
Yeah. So as a woman, you wouldn't care about somebody exposing your breasts if you needed defibrillation?
Most definitely not. If I needed defibrillation, CPR of any kind, get my clothes off, get my bra off and get cracked on.
Yeah. There's been some of our customers in the training rooms talk about being scared of being sued if they did CPR and used a defibrillator on a woman, being sued for saving their life and then them suing for exposing their breasts.
At the end of the day, which would you rather have? Would you rather have a healthy, happy person back with you, or would you be scared of being sued by exposing them? At the end of the day, I'd rather have my family with me, and if my breasts have been out or their breasts have been out and it saved their life, where do you go from there?
Of course.
You know, you need to get them out. You can maintain dignity at times if you've got enough people around you. You can have breasts out, you can place a blanket over your hands, or you can place something over. So but just make sure that you when you're doing CPR and you are defibrillating, you need to be naked from the waist upwards.
So would you advise, when the pads are on and the machine's telling you to not touch the patient, would you say you could put a blanket over at that point, or would that affect the defibrillator?
It probably wouldn't affect the defibrillator. You would need to place it over and then just make sure that everything's still. It's not literally just throw it on and then shock away, because that could upset the cause at some particular point. For me personally, if I'm in a crowded place, then I'd be trying to keep as much dignity as I can. If I'm in a place where, at home or, somewhere quieter, I wouldn't put anything over. I'd just leave it as it is and off we go.
Yeah. So you could potentially put a blanket over the pads once they're on and everything's okay with the defibrillator, and then do your CPR on top of the blanket.
Yeah, you could do that.
I mean, that might not be very easy. It would maybe for me on you, who've got real life experience, and me lots of experience with mannequins. But for somebody who's doing CPR for the first time, it might get confusion of where they need to be putting their hands.
It might confuse them, and I would just, at that stage, if it's the first time, if you're ever doing CPR on anybody, just go with the flow, get everything off.
Just get the tips out, because that saves lives, as Kathleen Moran says.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. So, basically, you're just a massive advocate for who cares about the boobs being out. So these stats, you're aware of them, and this is how you feel about them as a paramedic. But as a woman out in public, when you've not got your paramedic hat on, how does it make you feel that someone might not do CPR on you because you're a woman?
It'd make me really nervous in the fact that somebody might not do CPR. But the more people that know about CPR, the more people that know about first aid, the more women that know about getting your boobs out and saving lives, the better it is, because then people are going to be less nervous about carrying out CPR.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big stereotype, and I think it's a lot of men would be nervous to carry out that CPR for fear of, like you said previously, being sued or being accused of groping or anything along that lines. It's not that. They just need to save a life.
Yeah.
So
I must stress that we have not found any evidence yet of someone successfully being sued for these things. We can't talk for America because that's a very different thing. But in this country, as far as we're aware, no one's ever successfully been sued for these things. Okay, so let me have a little look at my questions. So, some of the questions that we've had from our trainers, which is going away from CPR on women a little bit, but for you as a paramedic, what we want to ask, which we know the answer to this, but a lot of the people in our training rooms don't know the answer to this. Can anybody use a defibrillator when they're out in public?
Anybody can use a defibrillator at any time out in public if they come across a cardiac arrest or somebody who is unconscious or may require CPR. The defibs are self-explanatory. You can follow the instructions. It tells you exactly where to put the pads. It tells you exactly what to do and how long to do it for as well.
Yeah.
So anybody can use them. Getting a defib from a public place, as long as it's registered with the ambulance service, and they will give you a code for you to be able to go and get that defib from that specific point and bring it back. If you don't use it because the ambulance has arrived before then, or it's not needed because the patient has come round or etc., then you can just go put it straight back.
Yeah.
If it's being used, put it back. The ambulance service will then contact the necessary people to restock with everything that they need to do.
So do you take it away with you if it's been used in public?
No.
So you leave it there?
Yeah, leave it there.
Do you put a sign on it saying it's not in use, or? It
will flag up we will inform our control centre. It'll then flag up that defib's been used, and then it'll be restocked over the due course.
Yeah, so then it's fresh pads, fresh battery.
Generally don't need new batteries, just fresh pads.
And checking the battery, checking it's all working order.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard stories in the training room again of when that's happened, and it's been numerous weeks for it to be back in use, and in that time somebody else has needed it and not been able to have it. So what do you know about the turnaround?
I don't know much about the turnaround, to be honest. We report it as soon as they get out. I think in more rural places it's easily looked after and restocked as soon as they can do. I think in the more urban areas sometimes it takes that little bit of time, but again... But
hopefully there's more in those areas anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, no, locally to us, we live in a tiny little village on a hill, and there's three.
Three.
So we're quite lucky with that one. Okay, so we've got some questions here about, in general, first aid on women. Do you know if people are more nervous, say people in the public or maybe new paramedics? Obviously you won't be more nervous because you're an experienced paramedic, but have you had, for example, a young lad starting with you as a student paramedic and he's maybe more nervous on women, or in your line of work is it just not a thing?
So in my line of work we generally just get on with it.
Yeah.
You know, a patient is a patient to us, whether they're male, female, transgender, they're a patient to us. However, I do understand the public side of it where they are nervous about carrying out first aid on a woman, depending where that injury is or what they need to do. Again, we're not different to anybody else. We are who we are. We're out there. There's more women than men, potentially.
Yeah.
So don't be nervous about carrying out that first aid. We still need it.
Yeah.
So, you know, just do it. Just do it. Embrace what's going on around you. Learn first aid, and then you're there and you're prepared. Yes, it's daunting, but just do it.
Yeah. And even for people who haven't learned first aid, have a go.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
it's better to have a go than do nothing.
Yeah.
We recently learned that only 1 in 7 people in the UK are first aid trained, which is scary.
It's very scary, isn't it?
So just to finish off then, what advice would you give to someone who comes into a first aid situation? I know you've just kind of said that a little bit, but just to summarise.
So is go ahead, use your first aid skills if you've got first aid skills. If you've got CPR skills, use your CPR skills. If you've been taught how to use a defib, use your defib. If not, then follow the instructions. But if somebody needs your help or requires first aid, don't be scared, just go for it.
Brilliant. That's the perfect way to end. Okay, thank you very much, Janet.
Thank you for having me.